in 2023. So we're going to get started in just a few minutes, but if you are attending via our live stream, Parker Lee is going to be on hand to manage the chat. So if you've got questions, please feed them into the chat and he will feed them directly to us. We are going to give away a few books today, so get your questions ready so you could get a chance to win one of Skip's new books on outbounding. I'm Kathy Steele, and I'm the CEO of Red Caffeine and your host today. And for those of you unfamiliar with Red Caffeine, we're a growth consultancy, and it's our mission to build badass brands that people want to work for and with. You're probably here today because you want to grow your business through organic sales or expand into markets, but quality inbound leads are drying up and you aren't seeing the results from your marketing efforts. So you're not alone. If you're like most people in a business development role, or if you're working with people in a business development role, you realize that sales and selling in 2023 is really different from what it was just a few years ago. People aren't answering their phones or even working in the office. And the gatekeepers and phone screening systems have made it much harder to get your prospect on the phone. We've also seen a reduction in face-to-face conversations, networking events, and lunches that we used to, get access to before. So if any of this sounds familiar to you, you are in the right place. At Red Caffeine, we've changed the way that companies think about growth with a simple and universal truth. Growth is a choice, and it's a choice to get better in 100 small ways that make a big difference. One of the ways that we help companies is by leveling up their sales and marketing strategy around proven best practices. And we don't just make it up as we go along. We're constantly adapting our approach based on what we learn from industry experts like our two guests today from M3 Learning. Skip Miller and Tom Latourette are here to share research from surveys they've conducted with top executives for the past 15 quarters. They'll share some trends, changes in what is expected from sales in 2023, and what you should expect if you're being really asked to do more with less. They'll tell you where to focus your time, how to shorten the sales cycle, and most importantly, Skip's going to share information from his book that will show you how to instantly become better at outbounding with better messaging, the right cadence, and effective sequencing. Gosh, that was hard to get out. Steve and Tom, thank you so much for joining us today.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
I always like to just start with a little opportunity to give you guys a chance to introduce yourself and tell us a fun fact that people might not see on your LinkedIn bio or in the bios. Tom, why don't you kick us off?
So I'm Tom Latourette, managing partner of M3 Learning here in the Midwest. About 23 years ago, I was a vice president of sales. I had 50 salespeople, 5 regional managers, and one of my regional managers read Skip Miller's book, Proactive Sales Management. We hired Skip to come work with our team, and my head was blown. It was one of those, boy, I wish I knew this 10, 15 years ago. Skip's been a sales mentor and a good friend for me since that time. And I've been lucky enough to coach and train the M3 sales philosophy for businesses for the last 10 years.
Oh, fantastic. And what else is not on the, tell us a little personal fun fact.
I am a children's book author, and my newest book, Opera Baby, is just coming back from Amazon. And so you can see about that. And 100% of the proceeds go to benefit a charity foundation that helps local families fighting cancer. So,
well, I love your charity efforts. I've been, happy to be a part of them, the B2B Foundation. So let's get some more book sales going. And our another author here as our guest today, Skip Miller. Why don't you give us a little background about you and your career and a fun fact?
Let's see. Born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, so I'm a big Guardians, Indians, Browns fan. I made sure all my kids are too. I moved to California 25 years ago. Have fun time. Was a salesperson, sales manager, VP of sales, president of some companies. The last company I was with wanted me to move back to Connecticut to help them work, and I'm not moving back to the East Coast. I kind of like California. So I said, thanks, I'll start my own thing. And that was 27 years ago. And typically we work with $20 to $200 million companies as they try to grow. I've been doing that for a long time. So we've learned quite a bit, and love doing what I'm doing. Basically helping salespeople and managers.
Oh, I think we just lost your volume, Skip. So, did we lose him?
Yeah, I'll do the Garrett Morris. I think what he was trying to say was he helps salespeople, sales managers, run better conversations, metric measure, and have really strong conversations with their clients and prospects.
Well, as we know, Tom, sales is the lifeblood of every business, and it's sometimes not, where people focus, and it's usually not the core competency of most organizations and the why they found their business. So let's, jump in, and as we're trying to wait to see if Skip can get his volume adjusted and jump in, let's take a look at some of the trend data that you guys have looked at over the last 15 months. I mean, most of our clients have really experienced some significant growth over the last couple of years, but you conduct this survey of senior leaders. So take us through some of the things and metrics that you have been seeing and hearing from in the past few years around what's going on with sales.
Skip, are you able to chat, or looks like we might? So basically, Kathy, we run this on a monthly basis. We've been doing it pretty much quarterly. We're interviewing key executives to get their data back to us in terms of what's happening inside their organizations. And one of the things we definitely are seeing is that folks are feeling somewhat optimistic. I mean, I think there's an interesting statistic that most folks, when we looked at last year, about 80% of people hit their plan, but everyone starts the year with already going 100%. We've got a hit last year and more. So everybody kind of walks into it knowing, well, there's a very good chance we're not going to hit our plan, because historically no organization hits that 100% of the time. But we all start our budgeting and planning cycle thinking that, right? So we're definitely seeing that from folks, that there is an expectation for us to be able to hit plan. Skip, are you back with us?
With no idea what happened.
Ah, there you go. Yeah.
There we are.
So the survey we're doing, we've been doing it for 14, 15 some odd quarters. So CEOs, again, 20 to times $1 billion company. And we've been asking them, thinking, how you looking? And this one right now, no surprise, we had a tough Q4. A lot of stuff slipped. They're going away. Their confidence of making kind of high, but some doubts starting to creep in. Usual, we're kind of like in a recession, a tough time. Next slide. We're trying to get them really understanding what a key critical event, and they need 30% of my business to come from new markets, and it's been consistent. We're trying to upgrade new products to our current customers, but still it says we got to go hunt. We have to go in new markets, which is fine, but to help do that, what investments are you making in this business? So as you see with the next slide, because that is so high, your new logos and new business, the confidence or above quota is starting to slip. That's fine. So what is it? What are the key our customers are looking at to try to get better at?
Hey, Skip, folks we're missing you every other word, and it looks like that is happening across the board. And so I'll kind of recap what we've heard is definitely there's this place of we got to get new logos. Business is really focused on how do we get new logos, how do we find new clients, but then there's also this space of how do we land and expand inside of existing accounts that we already have. That space of how do we prospect and outbound, even though inside the organizations that we're working powerfully with.
Yeah. Next slide. What are you really focusing on? Number one, we are forecast accuracy, because as you can see with the fourth quarter, but look at number 3s and 4 and 5. We've got to get better at getting decisions. All the drivers are saying because the inbound leads are drying up. So we'll move to outbounding. And Kathy, when I wrote the outbound, I talked to a bunch of account executives about. I sent one email last week, and I'm waiting to hear. The account executive salespeople don't really know how, which is why we wrote the book.
Right. A lot of times they're, really responding to requests that are coming in, more inbound inquiries, and they seem much more prepared to have those conversations because there's, a need identified versus flipping the script and being able to, be more proactive about selling and more proactive about creating that relationship.
Well, what that causes, as you can see on this slide, what that causes is, problems with your forecast accuracy. And now there's no energy. I mean, there's energy when people reply to us, or at least, they start the conversation. But now when I have to, as a sales rep, when I have to create that conversation, create that energy, maybe even move the client from a place where they didn't even know they had a problem, that can be an issue for salespeople today. This whole concept of outbounding and helping a client see a problem that maybe they didn't recognize they were having, that's front and center for organizations today because they're recognizing that their marketing activities aren't creating enough leads and opportunities for them. Kathy, are you hearing some of that same thing too?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that, people are expecting a bit more personalization. We're expected, we all have fairly lean teams and most of our clients have fairly lean teams. And so to be able to understand, what is going on in the minds of buyers, compete against some of the other things that are out going on from a news standpoint in the marketplace. It's very complex, and so I don't. And frankly, I've just never really been a believer on inbound only. I think we've always prescribed to a multi-channel approach. People are looking for information in so many different ways, and it's impossible for anybody to be everywhere.
Yeah, so Skip's going to try. Yeah, there you go.
I turned my video off this, and let's see if this works. Recession, slowdown, stagflation, whatever you want to call it. How do we get more leads? How do we generate leads? Well, today, a prospect in your market is buying something. Think about that. While we're worried about times or recession, we lost a potential sale. Coming up with the reasons why it's getting harder to sell is the perfect time for our customers to buy. Next slide will show you what are some of the accessibility to potential salespeople out there. When things are going well, they'll to try something new. They're not going to take a risk. Our above the line C-suite buyers are save money or make money. They have to make a change. Can't really emphasize a couple of words in this pod: change. People hate to change. They hate. I in my outbounding will use that extent. My name is Skip Miller with the ABC company. As you're looking at, probably have to change. Yeah, I do. And I hate change. Great curiosity word, and I would use it extensively. The biggest complaints salespeople get is when we sell a product that the client uses. So let's make sure we fix this issue. But bottom line is the above the line and below the line buyer, the above the line is the C-suite buyer. During a downturn, CEOs, they're all worried. They're all concerned. So it's a perfect time to look at the next slide.
Hey, Skip, before you go there, because we're still missing every word or two of yours. I think I think it's really important. This is a critically important slide. And I just want to recap it. I think the biggest piece here, Kathy, is it's as a salesperson, how do I get one, I got to have a high level of confidence knowing that I've got to create a conversation. What Skip is saying here is we're seeing that, above the line folks, they have to change. They know they have to change. They have to fix something. And this is exactly the time to make those calls.
Exactly.
That's been, one way. I mean, what choice do we have? Either we can curl up in a fetal position and, stay in the corner, or we can go, you know what? This is the perfect time to have these conversations because I can actually help my client navigate through that change.
Right. And Tom, we did get a question from the audience. So, I think we spoke to it on this previous slide, a couple of these things, but what are some of the top risks or changes that, you're hearing from prospects today, like as the recession looms? What are some of the things that you're hearing in these conversations or in your coaching sessions?
Well, definitely there's a space of, the ways that we have had success in the past aren't necessarily giving us success today, or at least at the same levels that we've had, right? And we've got to be open to trying different things. Now, our clients are going through the exact same thing. I mean, all you have to do is look at this conversation about Chat GBT, and it's, this new thing. And all of a sudden you feel like, oh my gosh, am I behind the 8 ball already? And our clients are thinking the exact same thing. So I think this place of mastering change and mastering our organization to be able to adapt and change, that's probably the biggest thing. And then the second thing we're seeing, it's all about people. I've got to keep my superstars, my A players. How do I keep them? How do I retain more? And, how do I recruit and onboard as we're trying to drive the business?
Yeah.
And you're going to have that problem regardless of what happens.
Quite frankly, change itself is risky. Everybody knows what to do. So the risk is the unknown. Here, I know what I did in 2022. I got to do something different than the answers. So there's a risk right there of not knowing. Perfect time to knock on somebody's door saying, I don't know if I can help or not. And changes are, what are you trying to change and help? Rather than, let me show you our new product could work for you. That's a push. The other one's a pull.
Yeah. And Kathy, you've worked with enough senior executives. I think most of us as human beings, we're not willing to say we don't know the answer, and a lot of times we've got to be open to that space of what else should I be thinking about? What could I be doing differently? And, that's like Skip says, if all we do is talk about product, then we're not going to be able to help our client through that place of mastering that change. And so, I think the next slide's a really strong one too. Skip, you're kind of with us.
Yeah, I'm here. So now is the perfect time to get knowledgeable about your reading 10Ks and stuff. What are they doing? Their industry doing to change? I can tell you is that we've been going after. What are the number one changes? Is making decisions, but they're not telling decisions are. So user buyers are sitting back going, hi yet. Now is a perfect time to call on high. I've talked to a number of CXOs, CEOs. Some of the changes we're hearing are you guys revenue and cost are secondary, cash. With all this virtual, you why not have a discussion? We're going to put together 5 CISOs, chief officers, and we're going to have a discussion on a topic. Use virtual meetings more as a weapon. A 30-minute,
Yeah.
sales call. Always time travel. John, what are you doing right? John, as you look at the second half of 23, John, as you look at the second half of 23, biggest gaps. Above the line buyers meeting to discuss long term. And finally, losers in this segment. The winners are going to stall. So qualify quicker. John, when are you going to decide to make some of the changes for a quarter or two? Put those folks in a maintenance or making decisions now. So here's some things you can do now. Founding efforts to make sure we're talking to qualified.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think you've hit on some great points, and Skip, we're still struggling with your audio. So I think we'll let Tom sort of color in some blanks on to some of the things that I think you were able to really convey.
There's a great Kathy. I don't know if you see this question, but how do you get prospects to self-identify the areas in which they need to change, rather than telling them how you think they should change? And so, Skip says all the time, we don't want to push. There's a difference, especially above the line folks. They want to be validated, not educated. So if we come in saying to somebody, oh, well, here's what you need to do. You should do this. You should do this. That's a push. The best way to do it, though, is, as Skip says here, get knowledgeable about what's changing in the client's business. Hey, we're working with a lot of folks that do exactly what you do. They're telling us that these are the issues they're having. They can't get new logo. They can't prospect. Tell me how you guys are on those issues. Where are you doing? What are you doing well? And what are the areas where you're worried about, you think you need to do a better job of? Now, positioning those questions in a place of, we understand your pain, but that gives you a high level of credibility. But then flipping it around and saying, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, where do you guys rank here? How do you need to address this? Those are really powerful ways to get the client to self-identify, and then you can kind of dive into those. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and Tom, just to clarify for our audience, so I don't know if people had heard it earlier, the ATL buyer, the above the line buyer, and the BTL buyer, the below the line buyer. Could you just give us a little clarification on those two personas?
Perfect. Yeah. One of the things we teach is that in most businesses, there are below the line buyers and above the line buyers. And so BTL buyers, typically the best way to think about them is those are the folks in the organization who are worried about features and benefits. They're the ones who get stuff done. Typically, as salespeople, that's where we're spending a lot of our time, talking to those folks. They need our product, and they need to implement it inside the organization. They've been told by a boss to find a solution. And that tends to be where we spend the majority of our time, right? But Kathy, I'm sure this has happened to you. We can have a great conversation with Bob. Bob says, yeah, this is perfect. Oh my gosh, this is great. And then we give Bob a price. We give him Bob a proposal. And Bob says something like, this looks great, but I need to get the approval from Mary. Now, Kathy, who generally has the conversation with Mary?
Yeah.
Bob. A lot of times we let Bob have that conversation with Mary. We think we're further along in the sales cycle, but the minute Bob has to have that conversation with Mary, we're almost back to square one. So we teach organizations that you've got to try and have both below the line and above the line conversations at the same time as you're moving along, so that you involve Mary earlier And so your above the line folks have a different thought process. They're thinking about return on investment. They're minimizing their risk. They're in meetings that they're already talking about 2000, 2024, 2025. And our goal is, how do you become part of that conversation instead of just a product conversation that is reacting to a need? Does that explain it?
Yeah. Another thing that I think happens a lot is the no decision
Yeah.
loss, or where you've had multiple conversations and with above the line and below the line prospects, but they make no choice. You don't lose to competition; you lose to no action.
You
What
lose
are
to
some
no action,
ways?
right? Yeah.
Yeah, what are some ways that we can get further traction with those types of
Yeah,
prospects?
let's if we can go to the next slide or two, let's we'll kind of talk about this. So I think, so Kathy, you're really touching base on, the biggest thing we talk about is it the chicken or the egg? Do you have to find the budget, or do you have to find the problem? Our belief is that, one, you got to find both, but too many sales organizations, the first conversation is, how big is your budget? Instead of, tell me about your problem. What are you trying to fix? What are you trying to solve? For you to be successful by the end of 2024, what needs to happen? What do you need to do within the next 2 or 3 months? The next slide. So, one, the first thing is, get really good about having that problem conversation. And we think a lot of it is, salespeople have to become more curious. We've got to learn what's happening, and then we've got to figure out how our product or service actually solves that. And it's not us telling the client how it solves it. It's the client kind of going, oh yeah, there's a difference between us educating versus the client validating themselves.
So let me try to add something here. Is it hopefully the audio is a little bit better?
Yeah,
A
it's
little
much
bit,
better. So, yeah,
yes.
All right. So why is it that all our outbounding emails say, "Hi, I'm Skip Miller with the ABC Company. I'd like to help. I'd like to really learn and help." Well, you don't even know what my problem is yet. How do you know what to help me? I mean, this is like retail. Hi, can I help you? No, just looking. So first things, we got to stop carrying this baggage when we outbound of, "I'm here to help." If I could take everything in my head and put it in your head, you'd see why you want to buy from me. That is just ridiculous, because no one's going to respond to that. Let's be curious before we start helping. John, my name is Skip Miller. My company offers solutions in these areas. If you guys are thinking about making changes in 2023 in this direction, maybe we should chat. Maybe we should have a conversation. Let's really start outbounding with curiosity. The number one way to get somebody to respond to an email is referrals. I know
yeah,
John Smith, you know John Smith, maybe we should chat. And that's always going to be effective. The second best way of getting somebody to respond to an email is curiosity. Make me curious. Kathy, I still have an old AOL account, and once a week I go in there, and I go into the AOL things. Guess what? Guess what Prince Harry's up to? Okay, what? Why am I opening this? This is ridiculous. But it made me curious. So let's make sure in our outbounding messages we focus on curiosity before helping. Might be beneficial.
I mean, Skip, I'm so glad you say this, because honestly, we were just having this conversation earlier today about, a lot of clients want to change some of the foundational research in setting up for any type of marketing or outbounding or inbound campaign. So, I feel that they want to jump right into prospecting. And so that little bit of knowledge or understanding of the space, I think it's completely differentiating, versus if you could just give me 15 minutes of your time, like at the email that I get like 20 times a day.
Yeah, exactly right. And Kathy, I still think informational interviews are great. We sell to CROs, CSOs. There's nothing wrong with calling up 20 of them and saying, "I'd love to pick your brain for 10 minutes. What trends do you see in 23? What challenges do you see in 23?" C-suite, above the line buyers love to give their opinions. And this is a great way to get information. So I just talked to 20 CSOs in the state of New York, and they say, "If you want to know more about this, maybe we should chat." So it's a great way of adding curiosity up front rather than show up, throw up, spray and pray, crop
Yeah.
dust. I mean, we have names for these things. Next slide.
100.
Yeah, if we can go to the next slide, that I think we can continue this conversation because this is
So in my opinion, if somebody wants to outbound, you got to master three words. Number one, cause. Number two, outcomes. And number three, decide. Number one, cause. Hey, what's causing you to look at my stuff? No. Number one, what's causing you to do something you hate to do? Change.
change. Yeah.
John, let me ask you a question. As you look at 2023, what's causing you to look at change? Kathy, if you look at the word cause in the dictionary, it implies energy, motivation. Something's happening to cause me to do something I don't want to do. I'm being forced to do something, to take action. When you use the word cause, why is this so powerful? Because it's a buyer word, not a sales word. Cause is something the buyers are having to do rather than, hi, John, why are you looking at us? I mean, I bought a car a couple of months ago and the guy goes, so why are you looking at a Chevy? I didn't know I was looking at a Chevy. I'm looking for an SUV that does this and does this. I'm going to 3 or 4 dealers. I didn't even know I was at a Chevy dealer. I was looking for an outcome. Anytime somebody makes a change, they're going to have an outcome. Hey, John, as you look at 2023, especially in looking to add prospecting abilities to your sales team, what are you doing? What changes are you making, and what outcomes are you looking for? That is such a great discussion question. It puts curiosity first, and then just ask them, when do you plan on making a decision about the changes you're making? It's these three words should be ingrained in your first, second, and third touches in your outbounding messaging because it's all about me, my favorite topic.
And Kathy, I would add to in outcomes, we're not only looking for positive outcomes that we're looking for, but what are the negative outcomes we need to avoid? The client will really respond in that
Yeah,
space of, 2 years ago this happened. I got to change this. This can't happen again. Whatever those outcomes that I need to see or that I'm trying to avoid, really powerful.
I would agree, and I love these three words, and they make so much sense. And I love the analogy of the car shopping experience, Skip. That really brings it home.
yeah. Kathy, for you, at your company, right? What's causing you to make changes to 2023, and what are some of the outcomes you're expecting? Look at you're ready to start talking to me, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because those are the things that are on my mind day in and day out, and so I'm a perfect above the line buyer.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking about what I'm doing there. Well, yeah, I'm thinking about what I'm doing later today, but I'm mostly thinking about what I'm doing 6 months from now. And
Right.
and
And what do you want to do about sales training? I haven't thought of freaking sales training.
Yeah.
What's caused you to make some changes in your organization? What are some of the outcomes you're looking at? And quite frankly, Kathy, when are you going to decide to start implementing some of these changes? We're going to have a great 15-minute conversation, and then I can determine and you can determine if our second conversation should be about what do you want to do to make your salespeople better.
Yeah.
Next slide. So, as Tom mentioned, we divide the world into two, above and below the line buyers. There's two different value propositions. The below the line buyer says, whatever I'm going to buy, I'm going to be the master at. I've got to make it use, I got to make it run. The above the line buyer is saying, as long as it makes fiscal sense to me. And Kathy, one of the best stories we've got is years ago, my office manager wanted to buy a printer. Now she was interested in 32 pages a minute, a 500-page drawer, 3 cartridges instead of 4 cartridges. I didn't care about the printer. I cared that it lowered my overall cost of workbooks because they were getting
right,
close to $7 a workbook, and I got to get that down. So when the guy came in to give a demo of the printer, my office manager wanted to know if I wanted to see a demo of the printer. I bet you it frickin' prints. I didn't
well, it
care.
matters.
But how many salespeople want to give a demo or a presentation to the above the line buyer using below the line
Right,
verbiage? It's
right.
ridiculous. It's
Table
two
stakes.
different.
Table
It's two
stakes.
different. Yeah. So I got a meeting coming up tomorrow. I've got 3 below the line buyers and 1 above the line buyer. You're in trouble. It's 2 different value props.
Yeah.
The best way you're going to do that is have the ATL speak first so they can get what's out on the table and then go to the BTL. Because if you let the BTLs take over the meeting, the ATL is going to go on video block so quick, and then within 5 more minutes, they're going to sign off a Zoom, and you're going to go, was it something I said?
No, it was something
Yeah.
you didn't say. Exact. Is that what it
So,
was?
so Kathy, as you outbound, We have our templates. Most of the templates are about features and benefits, things that below the line buyers have. Well, I know template 6 and template 9 work really well, so those are the ones I'm going to use for the C suite. No, it's a different language. It's about business outcomes and changes and challenges and gaps. So I just gave a speech yesterday to companies who sell to the chief information security officer. It's called CISO. So I typed up what keeps a CISO awake at night in 2023. I copied a few things off of Forbes and Gartner and Forrester. I had like a list of 6 things. I put that slide up. Everyone's taking freaking pictures of it. It's like, oh, but that's what they're. It's not hard to find out what the ATLs want. Just make sure when you're outbounding, you have 2 different templates. One for the below line, one for the above the line, because everybody wants to get it to above the line buyers. They're the bigger decision makers, but you can't get it with below the line messaging.
And
Well
Kathy,
said.
the thing we say is take a look at your introductory slide deck. And if that change slide is on slide 9, behind the map slide, behind your executive team slide, then you're making a mistake. That's got to be the first conversation you have. And then you can tell that the other stuff is all great second date stuff. The first date is here's what we see are the problems that you guys need to solve. Tell me about that.
Hey, Kathy, let me ask you a question. You know your users, you know your audience better than we do. As they outbound and try to get new logos and try to get new customers, what's the biggest thing that they're stumbling? Is it their cadence and sequencing? Is it their messaging? Is it their targeting above the line with below the line messaging? Is it they're not doing it? Well, what do you think the biggest thing from your users is?
I mean, I think it's a bit of all of the things you mentioned. I do feel like in a lot of the cases in our client situations, they are subject matter experts. So they're knowledgeable about their offering, their capability, but they haven't really been sales trained. And so they're uncomfortable having these leading questions or these leading conversations where they're talking about like big picture items with prospects. They're much more comfortable, answering solutions based questions because they know how to solve the problems once the problems have been identified. So I think, if I had to boil it down, is really rooting out that barrier to growth or rooting out that obstacle to getting to the next stage of a business growth. It is and it's usually fairly complex. It usually is multiple things. But I feel like that is a big struggle for many of our clients.
So,
Just
Kathy, for those of you who are watching this, because this is what I learned from Skip, is you just watch Skip do exactly what we've talked about and how easy that is, how easy that conversation is. Instead of Skip educating and training, it's that space of Kathy, here's what we see. Tell me which your customers, your clients, and you'll notice who talked more. Kathy, you did all the talking. You were engaged. You were telling us what your issues and problems were. And so that's, as
But
salespeople, we've got to
but
master.
let's but let's
I
let's
fell right for it.
No, 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 no. Let's be clear. Let's be clear. The number one characteristics of a great salesperson is they have a natural curiosity.
Yeah.
Kathy, I wasn't trying to trick you. I really was interested. Are your buyers different than our buyers? I really wanted to hear from you about what was going on. So it was not a trick or a ploy. I love when people say I want to hear tips and tricks from you, Skip. Tricks are what you learn in frickin' circuses. We don't do tricks. But at that point, I really wanted to make sure that your listeners and your people were doing the right thing. Kathy, you'll love this. The last group session we had with our CEOs, C-suite executives, and there must have been 30 or 40 on the phone, they identified the number one thing right now is we can't get customers to make decisions. I go, guys, everyone on this phone call, on this Zoom call right now is an ATL. You tell me, have you made decisions for 2023? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, we have. Oh, yeah. Well, your customers have too. They just haven't told their BTLs what's going on yet, which is just exactly what you said. So, Kathy, if your customers want to go get information on their current customers right now, they got to prospect to ATLs because ATLs are knowing what they want to do. They just haven't empowered the BTLs with a budget to go get something yet. So go knock on the ATL's doors because they know what they want to do. They just haven't put the plan together. this is a perfect time to go talk to them.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, there's just so much noise out there, but we all know we don't want to be the ones left behind by not moving a growth plan forward. So, that is absolutely, they just need a partner to get them to that next stage.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
no, we want to go to the next slide and start to dig into some of those email, communication sequences, but there was a couple of things prior that we wanted to touch on.
Number one, keep it short, 120 words max. Why? 70% of emails are opened up on mobile devices. 120 words is basically going to be one swipe. If I have to swipe more than once, I'm not going to read it. And one of the biggest mistakes, Kathy, we see is people are writing emails like they speak. Hi, my name is, I'd like to help, I'd like to know, I'd like to, which sounds very good when you're speaking, but not when you're reading. When I wrote my first book, Proactive Sales Management, it took me 9 months, wrote it a couple times, sent it to the publisher. Within 2 weeks, they called me back up and said, Skip, love the book, but we're through chapter 2, and you say, I think and I believe like 30 times. I go, well, it is what I think and I believe. I want it to come across that way. And they go, Skip, you're writing like you speak. When you write like you speak, people are going to read that I think, I believe, and go, what an arrogant fool. It's all about you. Stop with the I's. Get them out of there. So when you're reading your emails, make sure you're not saying, I'd like to know, I'd like to help. What we do it. No, stop it. John, I've read you in your latest article, you said this, you said this. Are you doing this? Get rid of those I's. Start reading like people want to read. Stop writing emails like you speak.
Yeah, we even suggest that a lot of times on, other tools like your website to be able to, it's not all about you, it's all about your customer. So how do you put that language in place that speaks to what, their pain points are, not what you do?
Look at this. Dear, we have a tool called trumpeting. This is such a great way to start a relationship with a customer. Let's say you get an inquiry from a company, and it's from Bob, the assistant manager of something. He's a below line buyer. Before you contact Bob, why don't you trumpet to the C-suite? Figure out 3 or 4 executives. In this case, Mary, John, and Fred. Mary's the CIO, John's the CFO, Fred's the whoever.
Yeah.
Hi, we just received an inquiry from your company. We plan on following up on this. If there's a reason or a challenge that could be impacted, I'll be in touch. Thanks in advance. Loving kisses, Skip. Now, John's going to get this and go, what the hell's Fred and Mary know that I don't know? Hey, guys, what's up? I don't know. What do you think? It's hysterical, the noise that it creates. So your second touch, 2 days later, an individual email to Mary, John, and Fred is going to go, hi, I talked to you yesterday. I did talk to the person who made the inquiry. I have a couple questions for you. Well, now you're a second or third touch with Mary, John, and Fred, and they should be more open to talking to you because now they're curious. What the heck's going on? It's trumpeting's job is to make noise. It does it well and sets up your second and third touch really effectively. And it's a legitimate email. We got an inquiry from your company asking for resource. Resource is expensive. We plan on following up on this. If there's a reason to get in touch with you, I'll get in touch. That's all you're saying here. You asked for some resource. We're going to give some resource. Resource is expensive. So I just want to let you know at the C-suite, we're going to spend resource on something your company asked us for. It's legit. It's just putting things out there. Trumpeting is a real cool tool.
Plus, Kathy, we talked earlier about how you keep the below the line and the above the line person moving at the same time. That's a way you involve the above the line person almost immediately in the beginning of these conversations instead of later.
I love it.
Yeah. Next slide. We're getting really tactical here, but hopefully this is kind of helpful. So do a little homework on a CMO. All right, what keeps a CMO awake at night? According to Gartner, Forbes, Forrester, who follows really CMO as well, what are my greatest growth opportunities? How do we protect and grow our market share? Where should I allocate my resources and plan my marketing spend for 2023? Why don't you incorporate this into an email? Next slide. Hi, Mary Jones thought we should talk. So I know Mary, you know Mary. It's going to be a way we get in. Hey, CMOs have been asking me, what are my greatest opportunities? How can we protect it? This is straight from Forbes, but it's in their terminology. No mention of product, no mention of who I am and what I do and what I'd like to do. Well, all I want to do is spend 15 minutes with you about your challenges and your go-to-market gaps for this year. This is going to get read because it's all about me, not about you and your new product launch and your new stuff that I should be interested in and take a demo on, which I'm not going to read. And this is 78 or 79 words. This will be read because it's under 120.
Yeah.
Yeah, you hit that right on the head. The minute I get a long email, I'm always like, "Oh, I'll read that later." And
Oh,
I hardly ever go back.
Kathy, you can't believe the emails I get from customers. I'll talk to a customer. I'll say, give me your 2 or 3 best email marketing templates. They're like 364 words.
Yeah.
No one's going to read it. And it's all about your product, your stuff. Stop it. Next slide. Look at this. Everybody in this podcast has closed some business. Why don't you write a thank you note and silently ask for a referral? Hey, just a quick note to say thank you for buying my stuff. All right. If there's anything you need or have any questions, please call me. You guys have been great. Hey, additionally, if you know anybody who could use our stuff or is having similar business challenges that you had before we talked, could you please forward this email? No one's going to give you a name. They will forward an email. So I'm going to forward this to Mary. Hey, Mary, you and I talked a couple weeks ago. I just implemented, some really cool stuff. If you're still looking for that, maybe you should contact Skip. This is how I got Tableau, which turned out to be one of our biggest customers ever. I was doing some work at WebEx, and right after we closed the WebEx deal, I said 4 or 5 thank you notes. The next week, the VP of Sales of Tableau calls, says, I heard you did some stuff at WebEx. Maybe we should chat. These thank you notes are a great passive way of trying to find business.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I think if you're like me, most senior leaders have some type of peer
Yep.
network they're attending on a
Yep.
regular basis. And we're all, regardless of the business we're in, we're all facing very similar challenges. And that is a lot more comfortable to me to forward something like this on versus like make an e-introduction that, puts my friend and fellow peer in a position to have to like respond to versus it being their choice to take more
And,
interest.
and quite frankly, who doesn't like to get a thank you note?
Yeah.
Right,
Mhm.
And we never sent them out. We just did this a couple months ago. Tom and Tebow and we sent out thank you notes. Hey, just thank you very much and stuff like that. The response rate was hysterical. We had like a 70% response rate to our thank you note process.
Yes, it's an underutilized strategy for sure.
Yeah. Next topic. All right. Ready for this? Hi. People like to write like they speak. I would have hoped next slide. Look at this. Look at everything in red. Look at the next slide. I would have, in my role, I see, we are exceeding, I will send. Really? Look at all the stuff that's in red. This is going to cause an instant delete. I would have hoped. What do you think I care about what you would have hoped is? This is an instant delete. Just change this, next slide, to this. As you look at 23, maybe you see the need, a scope across the household needs. All right, make sure you're not leaving something behind. Maybe we should chat. We've just changed that first thing into this and got rid of all those I's. That's all you need to do to go from how you speak to how people read. Next slide. This is so bad. I came
Right.
across an article yesterday. Mercury. Look, next slide. Look at all the red. Look at all the red. I'm reaching out on behalf of my company, an integrated local and channel marketing platform. We assist. This is so bad. But this was their
Yeah.
standard template. Change this to this. Next slide. Mercury Marine. Oh, we start off with you. Congrats. Mercury. Here's a quote from Yahoo Finance. Hey, no small feat. Congratulations. Hey, as you look to 23, maybe we should chat. Love and kisses. This is so much better because it's about me. It gets my attention. It's shorter, and it gets rid of all that stuff that you want to make sure you want to get out yet. As Tom mentioned, this is a first date. Don't tell me all the reasons why I should marry you. All right. Save that for the second, third, or fourth call when we get to the education process in our sales. Right now, we're just trying to identify, is there a need? And this does it a lot better than the previous slide.
And then the things that I tell you about are referencing the pieces that you told
Yep.
me were things
Yep.
you had to fix, solve, outcomes you were looking for.
Yeah, I mean, really, I think those examples just really hit home just how much like the shift of conversation needs to happen. But I'm curious, you mentioned about 120 characters to write how you read. What other things do you sort of use to quantify success? Should we be thinking about
So,
measuring success of an outbound campaign?
So what we've seen is a double, 2x in the response rates. When you're under 120 words, you use bullets instead of sentences, and you use questions. Questions is a transfer of ownership vehicle. It makes me think. When you ask somebody a question, it actually kicks in a response called instinctive elaboration. When asked a question, you want to answer it. So in emails, we typically give statements. We do this, and we do this. It's like, so flip those to questions. It's going to feel really weird. It's going to go, why am I putting questions in an email? The reader's going to go, yeah, there's a question I've got. That's exactly right. So bullets instead of sentences. 3 is always the magic number. Questions instead of statements. Under 120 words typically are some good rules of thumb to live by.
How many emails are you recommending in a typical sequence?
So when I wrote Outbounding, I interviewed, I don't know, 20 really good companies who are good at it. All right. And here's what I've basically found is the best cadence: 10 to 12 touches in a 2-week window. And a touch could be a phone call, a voicemail, an email, a LinkedIn touch, an Instagram, whatever, a letter in the U.S. mail. So 10 to 12 touches. Hey, letters in the U.S. mail get open because no one gets them anymore. It's hysterical.
Right.
So 10 to 12 touches. One of the best cadences I've seen is, all right, pick 25 above the line executives. Do a 10 to 12 touch in a 2-week window. Get rid of that 25, put a new 25 in. 10 to 12 touches. This is called the golden nuggets. 10 to 12 touches in a 2-week window. Take that out, put a new 25 in. When you're done with that, rinse, repeat. Go back to your first one, take out the ones you've contacted, whatever else, fill in some new ones, and do that. So 3 groups of 25, rinse and repeat every 2 weeks, 10 to 12 touches. It takes a salesperson less than an hour a day to do this.
And Kathy, I want to reiterate so people hear this, because I think some salespeople will go, oh, 10 to 12 emails. A touch is you want to use multiple touch points.
Yeah.
So a LinkedIn connection is a request. That's a touch point. I like or I comment on something you post on LinkedIn. That's a touch. If you're targeting somebody, especially on LinkedIn, you should click the bell on the upper right-hand corner, because that tells you every time somebody posts, that LinkedIn will say your prospect or the person you're trying to engage with posted something, which gives you a perfect opportunity to reply, like, or say something. So all of a sudden, this is this space of how do I become known? Skip talks about
I'm
get
Simone from
creative, send
Paris.
something in
I'm
the
working for
emails.
RSA, for
Maybe
Enterprise
you actually
Company,
stop
one of the
in.
biggest
Maybe we
accounts.
do it the
And I would
old-fashioned
like
way
to
and
ask you a
we
question
knock on a
yesterday, but I
door
had
of
no
one
choice
of those
because I was the
touches.
very last.
Yeah.
Skip, it
Regarding
sounds
what you
sounds
told
like
us
Skip is
yesterday, I'm interested
Skip is so
yesterday.
popular.
Are
He's
you
being
staying here?
stopped in the
right.
hall at the hotel.
I am.
So again,
I'm
I
on a
think that
podcast.
space of
You just give me 5 minutes.
10 to
I'm on a
12
podcast right now.
touches
So let me
in a
check
2 to
out.
3
Yeah,
week
right here.
period,
Yeah.
and those touches are multiple touch points, because I don't know which one is going to be the linchpin that somebody responds to, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And kind of back to the point of, how many channels people are getting information in. We all have our preferred
Right.
channels. And so we may be a lot more responsive via LinkedIn than we are going to be via email. It
Yeah.
just, it depends on the person, and it depends on the channels they like to leverage. So
Sorry
the
about
last
that, folks. This woman from Paris came up to me and goes,
Yeah.
I saw your speech yesterday. I have a question. I'm sorry.
That's funny.
Fantastic. Last question before we let you guys go. we're talking about, those 25 emails. How are you guys looking at segmentation of your target audience? Can you give us some thoughts on how to think about market segmentation?
What we see is based upon company fit.
Yeah.
Some companies are going after new markets. Some people are going after new geo markets. Some companies are launching a new product and going after their current customers, trying to upsell. So it all depends on where your company's going after. I love making sure that we go more ATL than BTL. Companies love going BTL because it's about their product, their new stuff, their stuff, woof, woof. And we call it, it's talking about the dog. Um, so we got to get better at making sure that, okay, I got a new product. If I'm an ATL, it'll fit these business challenges. So let's do CIOs in the Pacific Northwest with this message, CIOs in the Latin America with this message based upon our homework. So it's either by persona or by geo or by the business fit. What's the business strategy? We want to go more channels. We want to go more to this new market, or we want to upsell our current market. So it's going to be based on your business strategy. But
Okay.
the biggest mistake was all we do is talk about the BTL messaging. We never come up with a strategy for ATLs.
Product. Yeah.
100% agree. So, well, this was rapid fire. I am so glad that we were able to get you on
I'm
in some
so sorry
manner.
about the connection. It's working all week, so I apologize.
No problem. I think, Tom, you were a great, understudy and really helped kind of color in some of the blanks. And I really appreciated you giving color commentary as we went along. Skip, everybody was clamoring because they knew you would be delivering some, really valuable things. So we do want to let people know that if you've got more questions for Skip, I'm sure you do, you can reach him via LinkedIn or email.
Yeah, no, email skip at M3Learning. M3 Learning stands for Miller and his three kids. Skip at M3Learning.com. If you have any questions regarding outbounding and stuff like that, happy to help. Tom and I are here. It's Tom at M3Learning.com or Skip at M3Learning.com. Happy to help. Outbounding's tough. People hate it. They hate the fear of rejection. They hate getting hung up on the phone. Don't bother me. Click. It's a bruise to your ego. So people hate to do it. They need a little help. We're happy to help.
Yeah.
It's kind of like golf, Skip. I think it's,
Yeah.
you have 20 bad shots and then you have that one good shot and you come back and it is a really, really tough thing, as we all know, to, be in the sales process. But, what are some of those tools of the trade? I appreciate you sharing some insights and,
Kathy, one thing, if your folks
yeah,
want to if they want to send us one of their introductory emails,
Yeah,
we'll
we're
be
red
more than
lining.
happy to redline that and say, listen, here's a recommendation we would make to maybe try and see if you can make something different happen.
Kathy,
yeah,
you're a woman in my own heart because the last time I played 9, the first 2 holes I lost 6 golf balls, and then I
oh,
finished the last 2 holes par. So yeah, you got to go for it.
it keeps you coming back that one
It
win.
does.
So, all right. Well, thanks. Really was a pleasure. It went quick. I want to thank our sponsors, Insperity, M3, who we got a chance to deep dive with today, and HR Source. And then want to tell you a little bit about our next event coming up on March 16th. So we are going to be talking about how technology investments can really position you well for sustainable growth. So I think if you read anything right now, people are investing in their tech roadmap. It's a way to automate and create efficiencies in their business. And so Doug Kirkman from Becker Aviation, he really wanted to set himself apart in the ground fueling industry even before the pandemic. And so led a technology transformation that helped weather the unprecedented economic challenges that you can imagine anybody in the aerospace felt in the last couple of years. So next business as unusual, we're going to talk through how Doug stayed one step ahead of his competition, leaning into e-commerce and marketing as automation as a part of a multi-year grow-to-market strategy. He's going to be, talking about how this change the buying experience, giving his customers a way more of a B2C buying experience than a traditional B2B buying experience. He's going to tell us why that investments of having a presence, online has really driven his online revenue. He had his best year yet last year, so he's going to share, real insights to how he made this happen, and both the good, bad, and the ugly of the experience along the way. So again, I want to thank Tom and Skip for joining us
Thanks.
today, our
Talk
audience
soon.
for joining us, and wish everybody a great rest of your week.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you.